Yo, what's up? This is Razor Blazer 24/7. I'll be telling you how to make your video quality better. Cinema or videos on YouTube. So first of all, let's talk about exposure. Exposure is basically how much light you're letting in a second, right? So exposure goes by fractions. So if you have 1 over 250th fraction of exposure, that means your video is gonna be low. It's gonna be not a lot of light getting there. Now if you have like a 1/4, if you set your exposure to 1/4, then you will have a lot of exposure. But, and here's a big but, if you let a lot of exposure in, then what's gonna end up happening is this. You're gonna get streaks. So try to set your exposure to a good level. Once you do that, you have a video looking like this, sort of. Let me get to the second tip. Gain, ISO, ASA, all the same thing. Usually cameras with ASA will be cinema cameras, like, you know, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, Arias, maybe the Sony FS7. Those types of cameras will have ASA format. DSLRs like the Canon T3i, Canon Mark D5, 5D Mark III, or like the Sony A7 or the Sony A Alpha series, those types of DSLRs, they will have ISOs most likely. And camcorders like this, some camcorders are different, but this one have gain. They call their format gain. Everything is the same thing. It doesn't matter. It does the same thing. And now ISO, ASA, and gain basically is the light sensitivity. So the higher you set your gain, ISO, ASA, the more sensitive your camera is to light. But that does come with a price too as well, just like exposure. If you set your ISO way too high, ISO, gain, and ASA, if that's set way too high, this will happen. Your video will get brighter, but if you see like in the corner, over there, you will start seeing grain. You start seeing things move around, and this is really noticeable if you go like in a compositing program like After Effects or any program that can separate your RGB values. If you go in the green, I think the green channel, it's either green or blue, you will start seeing like blotches, right? And that's because your ISO, ASA, and gain is set too high, and it will start introducing more noise. So just like your exposure, you want to have that relatively low. Next thing, and the next step is the most important one. Next tip. Light. Light is very important. Without light, you will not be able to see what you have. So the more light you have, because I got a light like right here, then I got a light back there, but the more light you have, the less you have to worry about your exposure and your gain. You can actually set that shit really fucking low. And once you can do that, your video will be crisp and clear. The more light you have, it'll be more crisp and clear. But if you have too much light, exposure, everything gonna look bloated out. So your light gotta be good too as well. And also, another important thing, never have your settings set to automatic. Always have it manual. So like let's say you have a video, you shoot a video, right? And you shoot a video next to a window frame. And the window frame is freaking bright, right? It's bright. The sun is out and everything. But inside your house is dark. Why is that? Why when I put my camera to the window, my foreground gets dark, but the window is focused? Why is that? It's because your settings is automatic and your exposure is automatic, right? And that looks terrible. That's why you don't see that in movies, because everything is manual. And the last tip I got is aperture. Now, if you have a cinema camera or any other camera that has interchangeable lens, which means that you can do this. You can pop your lens off, right? Right? So that means you can pop your lens off. You can worry about one other thing called aperture, right? Aperture is basically, aperture is this. You see that number right there, 1.8? That's the aperture. That's the f-stop of the camera. And the lower the f-stop, this is a 1.8, but the lower the f-stop, this is a 1.8 f-stop, 1.8 lens, 50 millimeter lens. The lower the f-stop, the more light introduced. Your aperture is lower, you will have a more stronger depth of field. So that means it's gonna be really hard to like focus on things. So depth of field is basically that focus you just saw me do, right? That's depth of field. So those, if you have a lower aperture, you will be way more sensitive to light, right? Your camera will be way more sensitive to light, and you can shoot in low light. And this is good. I like this for low lighting though. This is the prime lens, Canon EF mount 1.8. You can find it on I think Amazon for like $50. It's cheap, but it's actually good. So those are my tips for having better image quality. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down in the description below. Comment, rate, and subscribe. Just comment and subscribe and stuff if you want to. And this is Razor Blazer 24/7, and I'll see you next time. Bam! Grammy King on this place. Whole teams. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best.